Ladies and gentlemen, I think I have found the biggest Penguins trade tree maybe ever, but at least of the modern age. I thought the Jordan Staal trade tree that I did a couple years ago back when I was in college, I thought that was the biggest one that the Penguins could have. The Jordan Staal trade tree is still alive. I actually posted a comment on that video kind of updating it because Brian Dumoulin is now in Seattle. That trade tree is still alive barely with a couple of draft picks and prospects, but it's mostly closed. This one just saw a massive trade in it, and it's still alive to this day because there are players on the Penguins still involved in this trade tree, as well as draft picks that are still out there. And just like Jordan Staal, this trade started with a player the Penguins drafted. I like starting trade trees when it's a player that was drafted because it really shows everything that happened since then. This trade tree spans 2 decades, has 3 or 4 Stanley Cup champions with the Penguins on it, and what I would say about probably 2 Hall of Famers. It all starts with one man, and it's very similar kind of to Jordan Staal. I would say kind of the defenseman like Jordan Staal, and that's Alex Goligoski. Alex Goligoski, longtime NHL defenseman who is still playing with the Minnesota Wild right now. He's towards the end of his career, but just like Staal, he's never not been reliable. Like, there's a reason he's been playing this long. So it all starts at the 2004 NHL draft when the Pittsburgh Penguins draft Alex Goligoski in the second round with the 61st overall pick. Goligoski, like I said, he won a Stanley Cup with the Penguins in 2009. This is actually his rookie card that I have, and he's still playing right now. He's 36, 37. He's 38. But the Penguins decided they were going to make a change. And on February 21st, 2011, Alex Goligoski is traded for 2 players. Those players are Matt Niskanen and James Neal. I remember this trade when it went down. It was kind of a 1-for-1 swap between Niskanen and Goligoski. A change of scenery between 2 pretty decent defensemen. And James Neal was kind of just a prospect who we knew could score, but he was thrown in. Little did they know, they being the Stars, that James Neal would go on to score 40 goals on Evgeny Malkin's wing. Now, we can already clip a branch, and by clipping a branch, for those of you that are unfamiliar with trade tree videos, basically that is either when a player is still on the team or leaves in free agency or is claimed by another team. Basically everything but traded, claimed even an expansion draft. That's another way that a branch can end. The player leaves the organization, the player retires. That can be another one. For Matt Niskanen, he left in free agency. He signed with the Capitals too, and won a Stanley Cup there. So there's another Stanley Cup winner on this board, but not with the Penguins though. Niskanen played 214 games with the Penguins over the course of 4 years, and he was a very good defenseman. He had a lot of offensive upside to him, and I believe in 2012-13, or maybe the year after, he led the team in defensive scoring. And like I said earlier, James Neal, he was a great scoring winger for the Penguins. And when the Penguins were really hurt back when he came right in when Crosby and Malkin were going through their severe injuries, Crosby with his concussions. And Neal came in and he was a bright spot on the team. He could score. And when the team got healthy, he played alongside Malkin. He scored 40 goals. He was a very good goal scorer for the Penguins, simply put. But when the Penguins made a change in 2014-2015, they hired a new general manager by the name of Jim Rutherford, and his first major move, June 27th, 2014, so the 2014 NHL draft. James Neal was traded to the Nashville Predators in exchange for Nick Spalding and Patric Hornqvist. Patric Hornqvist, one of my favorite players of all time, one of my favorite Penguins of all time. If you're a Penguins fan watching this video, you know what he ended up doing with the Penguins. He won 2 Stanley Cups. He played alongside Crosby. He played alongside Malkin. He even played on the third line in the second year. He was a great player. He was still a goal scorer like James Neal, but he had a different playing style where he just got in front of the net, and if puck went there, he would either tip it in or he would just jam it in. Hornqvist played 6 years with Pittsburgh, 407 games played, and of course 2 Stanley Cups. So here's where we get a divide. We can either go this route or this route, and I vote we go to the left first because for those of you that are familiar with the Penguins, you know what comes next with Nick Spalding. And Nick Spalding was traded. This is our first instance of having a plus. If there's a green plus, that means this player was involved in a much larger trade. Like, for instance, who this player was traded for eventually you'll see, is Phil Kessel. And Nick Spalding was not traded for Phil Kessel 1-for-1. He was involved in a much bigger trade going to the Maple Leafs. Kasperi Kapanen, a 2016 first-round pick, which actually became Sam Steele. Quick side note, I know this is mostly focused on the Penguins, but that draft pick was traded to the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for Frederik Andersen. So the Maple Leafs kind of got Frederik Andersen out of this deal. They also got a 2016 third, which became James Greenway and Scott Harrington. I don't want to put all those names on the board because, yes, while they're affected to the Penguins, and they're relevant to this trade tree, they're not exactly part of this trade tree, because this is mostly focused on just what Nick Spalding contributed to the trade tree because he's involved up with Alex Goligoski. But Nick Spalding, packaged with other pieces, was traded to acquire Tim Eriksson, Tyler Biggs, a 2016 second-round pick, and Phil Kessel. Let's go over the easy ones first. Tim Eriksson and Tyler Biggs, AHL players. I believe Eriksson might have played like one game with the Penguins. Tyler Biggs was a former first-round pick. None of them really became much to the Penguins organization. And then that 2016 third-round pick is actually still in the organization. His name is Casper Bjornquist. He also played, I believe, a couple games with the Penguins. But the main takeaway here is, where's he at? Phil Kessel. Need I say anything about what Phil Kessel did in Pittsburgh? He won 2 Stanley Cups, probably should have won a Conn Smythe, and he's a fan favorite for a reason. 4 years in Pittsburgh, 328 games, 303 points, and he was traded, again, in another deal that gets a green plus mark because it wasn't just Phil Kessel for these next players. It was Phil Kessel with Dane Burks and a 2021 fourth-round pick, which became Rasmus Korohin. And Kessel was traded for Alex Galchenyuk and Pierre-Olivier Joseph. Pierre-Olivier Joseph, of course, still trying to really find his footing. We thought he broke through last year in the NHL, but he kind of didn't. He's took a major step back this year. But in regards to the trade tree, that branch is clipped because Joseph is still on the Penguins. And then for Galchenyuk, he was not very good in Pittsburgh. Did not work out at all. High expectations considering he was traded for Kessel. Kessel kind of only went to Arizona because Tocchet was there, though. So it was kind of hard to get a player of Kessel's skill level back. And Galchenyuk, he's been in the news recently. His NHL career is done. It's finished, and there's reasons for that. But the Penguins were able to salvage something out of Alex Galchenyuk, actually. And he was mostly involved in this trade because of cap space reasons. But still, he allows the Penguins to get another player, very relevant player, Jason Zucker. So Kessel results in Zucker, sort of. Again, another green plus mark on this one because there's more to this trade. It wasn't just Galchenyuk for Zucker. The full trade was Kalen Addison, who just got traded again, a 2021 first-round pick, which became Carson Lambos, and Alex Galchenyuk for Jason Zucker with the Minnesota Wild. Jason Zucker most recently left in free agency to sign with the Arizona Coyotes, so this side of the trade tree has been clipped. Already a crazy trade tree so far. Wait till we get to what Patric Hornqvist became, or what resulted out of his trades. Now, after Hornqvist started to slow down, the Penguins decided it was time to move on from him, much to my dismay because I love him as a person and as a player. The Penguins traded him for Mike Matheson and Colton Sevier. Colton Sevier. For Colton Sevier, it ends as well because he left in free agency, or he may have got waived, I don't even remember. He only played one season for the Penguins and scored 10 points in 46 games, so not much to talk about there for Sevier. I remember he was an option on the fourth line. He was kind of an experiment, and it really didn't work. But the Penguins got Mike Matheson out of it. And if you know your Penguins history, you know where I'm headed with this one. Mike Matheson, in July of 2022, Mike Matheson was traded to the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for Ryan Poehling, another player who we'll get to in a second, kind of like Sevier, and Jeff Petry. For Ryan Poehling, kind of similar to Spalding and Sevier, another bottom six guy who left in free agency. He was a lot younger than Sevier and Spalding, but never really worked out. He's currently with the Flyers organization. For Jeff Petry, he did not last long in Pittsburgh, but he's definitely a relevant name in that last season he was the second highest paid Penguins player at one point, which is crazy. One season with the Penguins, 61 games, 31 points, ridiculed a lot, a scapegoat defenseman, and he was traded. And he was traded in a massive deal, which will probably keep this trade tree alive for years to come, because this past summer he was involved in the Erik Karlsson trade. On August 6, 2023, the Pittsburgh Penguins acquired Erik Karlsson, Rem Pitlick, a 2026 third-round pick, and Dylan Hamilur. The San Jose Sharks acquired Mike Hoffman from the Canadiens. That's relevant, but not relevant to the trade tree. From Pittsburgh, Mikael Granlund, Jan Ruta, a 2024 first, which is conditional. And then Jeff Petry actually goes to the Montreal Canadiens. That doesn't matter, though. It just still means that he still is involved in this trade tree. Casey DeSmith and Nathan Legare go to the Canadiens, and a 2025 second-round pick. As far as the Penguins are concerned, the only thing we care about in terms of the trade tree is Karlsson, Hamilur, a 2026 third, and Rem Pitlick. As of right now, all of those pieces are currently with the Penguins organization. And it's not 2026 yet, so who knows what that third-round pick could become. Jake Gensel and Crystal Tang and Matt Murray were third-round picks. So that's where we are right now. A lot of big names on this. I originally decided I thought I was going to make a Kasperi Kapanen trade tree. I'm like, oh, because that connects to Kessel, which connects to Galchenyuk, which connects to Zucker. And then I was like, well, wait, go back to Spalling. Wait, Spalling connects to Neal. Neal connects to Goligoski. And then I realized Erik Karlsson was a part of this trade tree, and I just had to share it. So there is the Erik Karlsson, Alex Goligoski, Mike Matheson, James Neal, Patric Hornqvist, Jason Zucker, Phil Kessel trade tree. Thank you all for watching. I just had to share this again because it all started with just a humble, solid defenseman who won a Stanley Cup with the Penguins. A draft pick, a first-round or a second-round draft pick by the Penguins, became all this. Other parts were included, those little green plus marks, but a lot of Stanley Cup winners on this board. So again, thank you all for watching. I'm not sure what trade tree I'll do next because I want to get in a rhythm of doing these because they're fun. Comment down below which trade trees you would like me to do, and I'll see you guys next video.